near a spring or a cistern. Have to be a pretty large cistern. Well, guess what's right under the small garden, the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem? A cistern. Now, this is an actual photograph taken just not too many years ago of the cistern. When you go to the Garden Tomb and you walk through the garden, you're walking over this cistern. It's 65 feet wide, long, 40 feet wide. You can see those people on that ladder. It's huge. In fact, it holds over 200,000 gallons, and it is the largest cistern in northern Jerusalem. Now, a cistern like that, in that wine press, they didn't have gardens back in Jerusalem really just for show. Maybe Herod might in his palace grounds, but people didn't do that. Gardens were working gardens. They were places where you grew olives or you grew grapes and you turned them into olive oil or wine. So the wine press in the cistern there, we know 2,000 years ago there was a garden. And in the place where he was crucified, at the skull, there was a garden. And in the garden, there was a tomb. What do we know about the tomb? Well, we know a lot, but we'll look at right now just 6 points. Here's what we know. The tomb was hewn from rock. It wasn't a cave, but it was hewn out of solid rock. It was owned by a wealthy man, sealed with a large rolled stone. The tomb was large enough for 5 or more. There was an entryway, an entry room, a place to the right, and a body site, and that the tomb was never before used. So starting with the first point, what type of tomb was Jesus Christ buried in? Well, it was not a natural cave, and it wasn't built with bricks like a mausoleum would be. It was hewn out of rock, out of solid rock. And we have a photograph here my wife Cheryl took in Jerusalem at the Jerusalem Garden Tomb, and that's the face of the tomb. A lot of people go there and say, well, why are those cinder blocks there? When they were excavating this, the wall right there, that's actually a little cliff of the top of Mount Moriah, began to fall in. And so they quickly built these cinder blocks there to prop up the wall to keep it from further deteriorating. And people have asked, well, why don't they cover it up? The Garden Tomb Association that maintains this, why don't they plaster over it and make it look real? Because they're not trying to make things look real. They're presenting evidence, historical, geographic, archaeological evidence, exactly as they found it, which is real exciting. So this Garden Tomb in Jerusalem seems to meet all the requirements of the location near the site of the crucifixion, plus it was hewn out of solid rock. Now, the next point is that it was owned by a wealthy man. All right, so this photograph here shows you the inside of the tomb, and there is no question that only a wealthy man could have had this construction performed. It would have taken a skilled laborers many months to carve this out. And when you're carving out a solid rock, you can't make a mistake because you can't fix it. And it's amazing the work they did. Joseph of Arimathea, this tomb that we are seeing today, you could go visit, this tomb, the second point, is beyond any doubt owned by a wealthy man. Point number 3, the tomb was sealed with a large stone that was rolled in front of it. Right? The room was sealed with a large rolled stone. Now, my wife, she was very busy over there in Israel taking photographs. But these drawings show, a potential shape of a tomb. Now here, imagine this is a rock wall, and this was dug in to the rock wall. And 3 women are coming in to enter, and just like a little cave that you might find actually out in nature somewhere. They go to enter, and it's not possible that there can be someone to the right, sitting to the right, and they see him, and then he has to point to where an empty body would lay. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work in a cave or a tomb that might be shaped like that. So we have another possibility here, and this is a tomb where let's say this is a wall and this was hewn in, and the entrance is all the way on the right. The entrance is on the right. So 3 women come in through the entrance. This doesn't work either, because if there's somebody sitting in there pointing to a body, it's not possible. He couldn't be on their right. He'd have to either be straight ahead of them or off to their left. So here is a diagram of a tomb that meets the description of basically the blocking of the characters in the gospel narratives. 3 women enter the tomb all together, and of course they're in the weeping chamber, and they're startled by a young man sitting on their right. They're startled, and he says to them, don't be alarmed. See, they saw him first before they saw the place where Jesus lay, because they could have seen the empty grave clothes. But no, they saw him first. They were startled. And he said, do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. See the place where they laid him. And he points just beyond him, because they saw him first. And he points, here's the place where they lay him. And they see the grave clothes. And they were all laid out there, but they were wrapped. They were laid wrapped, as though they weren't unwrapped, but the body within, Jesus Christ, was raised from the dead by the power of God, and the grave clothes just dropped. They're wrapped as though they had been when they laid him in the tomb. Wow. There is so much that points to the authenticity, not only of the tomb and this Jerusalem garden tomb, but of the resurrection of Jesus Christ himself. Also, what else do we know about this tomb? This is powerful. Brace yourselves. It's a tomb that was never before used.